that quiet tension beneath your skin, the weight that follows you when you think no one is watching. But someone is. Not your boss, not your friends, not the strangers scrolling past your life. The gods are watching you. Every time you choose comfort over courage, silence over truth, delay over discipline, their gaze hardens. Because they did not make you to drift through this world half asleep. The sky has grown quiet, yet the old eyes still watch. You cannot see them, but their gaze trembles through the air like the hum of thunder before a storm. The gods never left. They simply stepped back to see what their children would become without them. And you, yes you, live beneath that silence. You wake each morning as if alone. But the moment your heart stirs, something ancient stirs with it. The pulse in your wrist carries the same rhythm that once drove warriors across deserts, that once guided architects to raise marble toward heaven. Every heartbeat is a whisper from Olympus. We are watching. Do you think they gaze upon your failures with scorn? No, they watch for movement, for that spark of defiance that separates dust from divinity. When you reach for more, when you drag your tired body toward one more hour of work, one more repetition, one more act of courage, that is when the heavens lean closer. The mortals of old built temples so their prayers would echo. You have no stone altars now, only the altar of your will. Yet the gods hear it just the same. Each choice is an offering. Each hesitation, a sacrifice wasted. They remember when mankind's eyes burned with purpose, when the farmer looked at the sun and saw Apollo, when the craftsman shaped wood and felt Hephaestus guiding his hand. Now the modern world hums with screens and noise, and the divine has been reduced to metaphor. Still, the watchers endure. They measure not your words, but your momentum. Zeus weighs your courage against the storms you face. Athena watches your thoughts, not to control them, but to see if wisdom still lives in the human mind. Hermes counts your steps toward dreams left half-finished. Even Hades, the silent one, waits to see if you will fear him or respect him, for all that is mortal must one day answer his call. The gods are not distant rulers. They are witnesses of potential. They stand over every decision, not with threat but with hope. For they remember what you have forgotten, that greatness was never meant to be rare. It was meant to be natural. Once, they gifted humankind with fire, with imagination, with will. And every generation since has either guarded that fire or smothered it with comfort. When you choose ease, the flames dim. When you struggle for something noble, the horizon brightens again. You wonder why life feels heavy, why the world seems to test you. It is not punishment, it is measurement. Each trial is a scale balancing what you ask for against what you are willing to endure. The gods watch not because they doubt you, but because they crave to see one who remembers his origin. Look at your hands. Ordinary. Calloused perhaps, trembling perhaps, yet they carry the same power that once raised temples from rock. You were not born small. You were trained to believe you are. The gods sigh when you forget this, for amnesia of divinity is the greatest tragedy. They placed eternity in your chest and time around your body. You are meant to walk between both. Every time you waste a moment, time wins. Every time you act with purpose, eternity leans nearer. The watchers nod when you move with intent, for intent is the language they still understand. Do you think they smile when you pray for comfort? No, they smile when you ask for strength. They smile when your back breaks beneath the weight of effort and you stand again. For pain is proof that you still believe in the forge. The world has changed its gods, replaced thunder with algorithms, temples with skyscrapers. But Olympus has not gone silent. It simply changed its vantage. The gods now peer through your reflection in glass, through the pause between your thoughts, through the breath before you decide whether to rise or retreat. And each day, they record. Not in scrolls of gold, but in consequence. Every choice leaves a mark. Every act of courage carves your name a little deeper into the memory of creation. The gods are watching because they still see themselves in you. The same curiosity that shaped constellations lives in your hunger to build. The same fury that split mountains hides in your frustration with mediocrity. The same tenderness that sculpted love rests in your quiet loyalty to those who believe in you. They do not expect perfection. They expect persistence. They know storms. They invented them. And they know that lightning is not born in still air. It needs friction, pressure, imbalance. So they send you difficulty not to destroy you but to ignite you. Every setback is a whisper. Rise. Every failure a test. Will you still honor the fire? Every success a question. Will you remember who gave you breath? The gods are watching because creation itself watches. You are the latest chapter in a story older than the sea. And though you cannot see the stars at noon, they are still there, patient, luminous, waiting for darkness to prove their light. You live in an age that calls myths delusion and faith a weakness. Yet the truth is simpler. Mythology was never about gods ruling men. It was about men learning to rule themselves. The gods remain symbols of the heights you can reach when courage outweighs fear. And so they watch, not from thrones of marble, but from the quiet corners of your conscience, from the spark that keeps you restless, from the guilt that visits when you betray your own potential. That is divine observation, not surveillance, but reminder. The gods are watching, and the question they whisper is the same they asked of heroes past. Will you remember? Night falls, and the cities glow like constellations turned upside down. Humanity has built its own heavens of glass and electricity, and yet the stars above remain unmoved. They watch as you chase light that never warms you. They watch as you reach for approval instead of purpose, as you measure worth in numbers that vanish with a swipe. The gods do not envy your inventions. They pity your forgetfulness. You were meant to rule fire, not be ruled by flickering screens. You were meant to hear thunder and feel awe, not anxiety. The gods look upon your towers and see mountains hollowed of meaning. They look upon your silence in moments when your heart should roar and wonder how the descendants of titans became so quiet. But even in that quiet, they search for signs. A runner pounding the pavement at dawn, defying exhaustion. A mother whispering courage to her child. An artist painting despite hunger. These are the new rituals. These are the offerings the gods still recognize. They do not demand temples. They demand motion. Movement is the only prayer that has never lost power. When you act with conviction, the sky listens. The gods tilt their heads, and for a moment, eternity pauses. For in that instant, you become what they always intended, a being of will. The watchers understand fatigue. They remember what it meant to labor across eons, shaping mountains, oceans, stars. They know the ache that comes with creation. So when they see you exhausted but still refusing surrender, they nod in reverence. Not because you are divine, but because you remember that you could be. The gods never required perfection. They required participation. To show up in the battle of life, even bruised, even afraid, is enough to stir their attention. They mark the moment you rise from despair, for that rise echoes through all realms. When one human stands again, the entire tapestry of existence vibrates with renewed strength. Still, the gods are not sentimental. They watch with the same neutrality as the tide. If you waste the gift of consciousness, they let the current pull you away. If you wield it, they clear your path with unseen hands. They reward movement, not complaint. For complaint is the language of the powerless, and they did not create you powerless. Once, the heroes of old begged for favor. Now the favor lies within choice. The gods no longer whisper instructions. They wait to see what you build from silence. Your struggle is their entertainment, your progress their sustenance. They watch because you are their mirror. And mirrors are only useful when something stands before them with intent. Do not imagine Olympus as distant peaks or forgotten ruins. Olympus is the space between what you are and what you could be. Every time you close that gap, you climb the mountain. Every time you widen it with fear, you descend. And the gods record the altitude of your spirit with precision. There are moments when life feels unbearable, when even the idea of effort seems absurd. That is when the gods lean closest. They listen not for prayers but for breath, for the breath that refuses to stop. They know the sound. It is the same sound that accompanied creation, the exhale after chaos became form. That exhale is still sacred. You think you are small because the world tells you to shrink. You think power belongs to others, to systems, to history. But the gods remember the truth. Every legend began with a single defiant thought. The world changed not because someone was chosen, but because someone chose. That choice, to rise, to build, to fight again, is the spark that summons divinity. When the gods watch you, they are not judging morality. They are gauging magnitude. How far will you go with what little time you have? How fiercely will you protect the flame of meaning from the wind of distraction? How deeply will you carve your mark before the tide reclaims the shore? You may not see them, but you feel them in the weight behind decisions. The hesitation before surrender. The whisper that says not yet. That whisper is the breath of Olympus against your ear, reminding you that surrender was never written in your design. The gods know fear. Even they once trembled before fate. They learned that destiny is not a chain but a challenge. And now they watch to see if you will learn the same. Every time you break a pattern of weakness, the gods feel the tremor. Every time you choose integrity over ease, a light rekindles in their realm. You were not created for survival alone. The beasts were built for that. You were given memory, imagination, choice, tools that shape eternity from dust. When you use them, you honor the architects. When you neglect them, you turn away from the inheritance that could make your name echo among the stars. The gods do not speak because their lessons were already given. They left the laws carved in the rhythm of life itself. Effort births reward, sacrifice breeds transformation, courage invites destiny. Every culture, every faith, every story has repeated the same pattern because truth does not need revision. And yet, the gods watch in wonder at how forgetful you can be. They gave you storms so you would learn to sail, not to hide. They gave you pain so you would remember growth. They gave you death so you would treasure time. But you fear all three, and in that fear you grow smaller than the ants you step over. Still, hope glimmers. The gods see it. A few who move differently. Souls who burn without permission. Humans who treat every morning as a rebirth, who shape each day as if sculpting marble. Those are the ones who restore the gods' faith in their own creation. Those are the ones the gods whisper about when the stars gather in council. They speak your name when you strive. They debate your limits when you persist. And when you finally break through what the world called impossible, they rise from their thrones, not to applaud, but to remember what divinity looks like when it wears mortal skin. There comes a point when the gods stop sending signs. The skies go still, the omens fade, and the air thickens with absence. It feels like abandonment. But it is the oldest lesson of Olympus. Silence is the forge. When they no longer answer, it is because the next word must come from you. Many crumble in that stillness. They mistake quiet for neglect. They forget that even the sun disappears each night to prove that darkness can hold light without destroying it. The gods are not punishing you when everything goes mute. They are listening for the sound of your own creation. They gave you storms to teach resistance, but they gave you silence to teach voice. You walk through days that taste of dust. Work grinds against bone. Doubt circles like a vulture above ambition. That is when their gaze sharpens. They measure the weight of your endurance, the honesty of your struggle. The divine does not care for easy victories. It reveres the kind that bleed. When you continue despite not believing, When you move even though no one sees, that is worship in its purest form. In the age of myths, heroes faced monsters of flesh and fire. Today, the monsters live inside your reflection. Hesitation, distraction, fear of being ordinary. You slay them not with swords but with habits, with choices repeated until they become armor. Every disciplined morning, every act of restraint, every refusal to quit is another scar the gods record in your favor. You may think they want grandeur, but they want growth. They remember the first time humanity lit fire and refused to let it die. They want to see if you will do the same with purpose. Will you protect your inner flame when rain falls for weeks? Will you keep building when the foundation cracks? They do not test to break you. They test to remind you that you were built to survive testing. There is an art to endurance. It begins with small defiance. Rising when the body pleads for rest, speaking when silence would be safer, choosing integrity when deception would be rewarded. Each act draws the attention of Olympus more than any temple ever did. They lean closer, whispering through instinct, guiding through coincidence, arranging encounters that look like chance but are written in their patient handwriting. Still, the trials grow heavier. The gods know that gold must pass through fire until it forgets weakness. So they send betrayal to test loyalty, failure to sharpen humility, and loss to sculpt empathy. They allow hunger so that feasting feels sacred again. They allow loneliness so that connection regains meaning. Without contrast, even light becomes dull. When you curse the sky, they do not recoil. They nod. Anger is better than apathy. Rage is proof that your heart still burns. Many call upon the gods only when suffering arrives. But they misunderstand the transaction. Suffering is not the price of favor. It is the evidence of potential. The gods invest pain only where greatness might grow. There will be nights when you whisper into the dark and no answer comes. You will think you are forgotten. But in that moment, the gods stand motionless, breath held, waiting to see if you will invent your own answer. The ones who endure that emptiness become legend. The ones who flee it vanish into history's silence. Every culture once told of a hero descending into shadow. Persephone, Orpheus, Odysseus. Each went below and returned changed. That journey was never about geography. It was about evolution. You too must descend into failure, confusion, exhaustion. The gods are watching to see if you emerge wiser or smaller. They do not lift you. They illuminate the exit. Whether you walk toward it is your choice. At dawn, when you stand again after a night of defeat, the air feels different. The watchers feel it too. They mark the change in your heartbeat, slower, steadier, heavier with resolve. They see that the lesson has entered bone. That is when reward begins, quietly, invisibly. Paths clear. Allies appear, not because the gods interfered, but because the universe rearranges itself around conviction. You may never see their faces, but the proof of their gaze is written in coincidence too precise to dismiss. A word from a stranger that answers an unspoken question. A failure that redirects you toward the right mountain. These are their signatures. The gods never stopped communicating. Humanity simply forgot the language of attention. They speak through alignment, not thunder. They move through timing, not miracles. When your intent becomes unwavering, they synchronize with it. The ancient texts called it blessing. You will call it momentum. The effect is the same. The world begins to move with you instead of against you. But beware complacency. For every rise invites another test. The gods watch most closely when you succeed, because success has drowned more souls than failure ever could. They will send comfort disguised as reward, ease wrapped in praise, to see if you remember hunger. The moment you forget, the silence returns, not as punishment but as reset. Olympus resets all who mistake arrival for completion, and so the cycle continues: rise, silence, trial, revelation. Each turn brings you closer to the understanding that the gods do not want worshippers. They want equals. Beings who can create without permission, endure without applause, love without condition. The test will continue until you understand that the gods were never above you. They were the echo of your highest self, waiting for you to catch up. That is why they watch. Not from pity, not from pride, but from longing. They long to see one of their own remember. There comes a morning when the ache in your chest feels different. It is no longer the hollow pain of defeat. It is the pressure of something awakening. The gods feel it first. The air trembles around you. Unseen currents shifting as if an old name has been whispered back into existence. It is the sound of remembrance. You have endured enough to recognize that the pain was never punishment. It was preparation. Every failure was chiseling the stone of your spirit, carving away softness until the outline of strength began to emerge. You were not abandoned in the dark. You were being shaped there. The gods never forge idols in daylight. They do their best work in silence and shadow. You start to see the pattern. Every closed door led you somewhere better. Every betrayal pushed you toward truth. Every loss cleared space for something real. What once looked like chaos begins to resemble choreography. The gods smile when this realization dawns, because this is the moment the mortal begins to evolve beyond needing rescue. The gods do not save, they summon. They place storms not to drown you, but to force you to build a vessel. And now finally you have built one. It may leak, it may creak, but it floats, and more importantly, it moves forward. The first true prayer is not spoken. It is motion, and motion is what stirs the divine back into the mortal world. Something shifts within you. You stop asking for strength and begin becoming it. The voice that once begged for signs now commands direction. It's not arrogance, it's alignment. You realize the gods never wanted you to kneel. They wanted you to rise. Their watching was never about control. It was about recognition. They needed to see if you would remember the same truth that shaped them. That creation begins when will meets resistance. You walk differently now. The weight that used to bend your back becomes armor. The fear that froze you becomes fuel. The world hasn't changed, but your vision has sharpened. You see opportunity where you once saw obstacles. You see training where you once saw punishment. This shift, invisible to most, is what separates the divine from the lost. The gods murmur approval through the rhythm of coincidence. You start to meet people who reflect your new state of being. Others walking the same narrow path, carrying the same invisible flame. Together you begin to move like a current. The world notices. The same systems that mocked ambition now seek your energy. But you've grown too aware to be seduced by attention. You understand that worship of self is not vanity, it's responsibility. You are not the center, you are the conduit. Power is not meant to be possessed. It's meant to be expressed. The gods knew this, which is why they placed divinity within you rather than above you. Power confined becomes corruption. Power shared becomes creation. And creation is the language that makes even Olympus listen. When you create, a thought, a work, a legacy, you participate in the original act of godhood. You turn nothing into something. You give form to the invisible. Every sentence written, every idea born, every dream pursued is an echo of the first divine spark that said, "Let there be." You may not realize it, but each moment of creativity drags a little more of eternity into time. The gods watch this with reverence. They see mortals painting with the same palette they once used for stars. They see hands trembling not from fear, but from the weight of meaning. You were never designed to live passively. The universe expands through your actions, and the gods bear witness to each ripple. But awakening is not comfort. It's confrontation. Once you remember your power, you also remember your responsibility. You can no longer pretend ignorance. Every lie you speak, every compromise you justify, now burns against your consciousness. The gods do not punish deceit, your own awareness does. Truth becomes heavy in your mouth, demanding expression. You find yourself unable to tolerate what you once accepted. This is not arrogance. It is ascension. The gods lean closer now, not as superiors but as kin. They see in you the reflection of their own becoming. Once they too were bound by fear of failure, chained by the illusion of fate. They broke those chains through will, and now they wait for you to do the same. When you finally understand that fate was never a script but a mirror, you become untouchable. You begin to sense the interconnectedness of everything. How thought shapes matter, how emotion sculpts outcome, how discipline rewrites destiny. You see how your small victories shift the pattern of entire generations. The gods have always known this, but to watch a human rediscover it is their greatest joy. You are no longer entertainment. You are evolution. The watchers record this moment in silence. They do not cheer. They simply know. A mortal has remembered. The lineage continues, and somewhere in the vastness of being, another constellation lights up. Not in the sky, but in the heart of existence. Yet they know the journey is far from over. For awakening invites challenge. Power untested remains theory, and the gods, in their eternal hunger for growth, prepare to place before you the greatest trial of all. Not external battle, but mastery over your own creation. Can you wield power without worshipping it? Can you lead without controlling? Can you love without consuming? These are questions only action can answer. And the gods wait, not with judgment, but with curiosity. They have seen countless souls awaken, only to be undone by the very light they discovered. The real test of divinity is not rising, it's remaining. As the sun bleeds across the horizon, you feel it. That quiet acknowledgement from something vast. It is not praise. It is not promise. It is recognition. You are no longer a spectator of life. You are a participant in creation. And for the first time, the gods do not look down upon you. They look across. Power reveals what weakness could never show. The moment you awaken, the universe shifts its stance toward you. It stops protecting you and starts challenging you. The gods, once distant observers, draw nearer, adjusting the weight of the world around you, whispering through circumstance. Let us see what you do with what you now know. The tests arrive quietly. Success brings envy. Recognition tempts the ego. Comfort tries to smother hunger. You begin to notice that the more light you carry, the more shadows stretch to meet it. People will praise you for your strength, and then resent you for it. They will call you lucky, not realizing the scars beneath your calm. The gods watch without intervening. They know that divinity cannot be proven through ease. They send mirrors instead of miracles. Situations that expose the fractures still hiding inside you. A friend betrays you. Can you remain compassionate? A dream delays. Can you stay patient? A door closes. Can you trust that the next is already building itself from your faith? It is not cruelty, and it is calibration. Each challenge fine-tunes your alignment with truth. For even gods must remain vigilant against the slow rot of arrogance. The fall of Olympus began not from weakness, but from pride. And so, they test you as they once tested themselves. At first, you resist. You think enlightenment should grant immunity from struggle. But the gods shake their heads. Enlightenment grants awareness, not exemption. It does not erase pain. It gives meaning to it. You learn that the goal was never peace without effort, but peace through effort. A stillness that stands firm in the middle of chaos. So the trials grow deeper. The world around you turns louder, more absurd. You see greed celebrated, cruelty rewarded, truth dismissed as noise. It hurts because you can finally see it clearly. The blindness that once protected you is gone, replaced with vision sharp enough to wound. But awareness is not meant to destroy you. It's meant to demand action. The gods do not give sight without purpose. You begin to act differently, not louder, but truer. You stop explaining yourself. You stop fighting for validation. You build quietly, persistently. The gods take notice. They see you learning their old secret, that power is not in domination, but in discipline. The true divine does not shout. It shapes. Every day you choose creation over destruction, integrity over indulgence. You feel the pull of temptation to flaunt your strength, to prove your worth, to control outcomes. But something older within you resists. It remembers that the greatest gods were not those who conquered, but those who created order from chaos. The tests become subtler now. The gods withdraw the storms and send silence again, but this time it feels different. It no longer frightens you. You've grown accustomed to the rhythm, challenge, silence, clarity, growth. The silence now feels like companionship. You realize they never left. They simply stopped needing to speak. The student has become fluent in the language of endurance. The world continues its noise. But inside, you've built your own Olympus. It isn't marble or gold. It's made of choices. You start to notice that your calm unsettles people. Your consistency exposes their chaos. Your focus disrupts their excuses. Without meaning to, you've become what you once admired, not a god above men, but a mirror reminding them of what they could be. And with that comes a heavier weight. Influence. The gods study how you carry it. Will you use your light to guide or to blind? Will you inspire others to rise or make them kneel? The difference between a leader and a tyrant is intention. And intention is the one thing even the gods cannot fake. The next test is hidden in the form of followers. Praise begins to pour in, attention multiplies, and with it comes the oldest poison. Validation. You taste it once and it feels sweet, but soon you sense its decay. The gods tighten their gaze. They have seen entire civilizations fall to this illusion. The need to be seen more than the need to be true. You feel the pull, but you resist. You remember that the mission was never applause. It was alignment. Your power deepens not in visibility, but in stillness. You begin to influence quietly. A word that sparks thought. An act that changes course. A silence that commands reflection. The gods nod in approval. They recognize restraint, the mark of mastery. It is easy to dominate. It is divine to direct without force. And so you begin to understand why they watched. Not as judges or saviors, but as witnesses to the evolution they once experienced. Each human who reaches this state reminds them why existence was worth creating. You become proof that the divine spark survives, no matter how far it falls into matter. The gods no longer test you with storms. They test you with success. They give you everything you once begged for and watch to see if you will remain unchanged. It is a paradox. To have power yet choose humility, to hold influence yet serve instead of rule. Few pass it, many mistake blessing for entitlement, and the gods turn their faces away, disappointed but unsurprised. But you remember the silence, the hunger, the despair. You wear those memories like armor against pride. You remain grounded in the knowledge that power is borrowed, not owned. You are not a god among mortals. You are a mortal reminding gods what humanity was meant to be. You begin to live as a bridge between worlds, divine in spirit, human in form. You create not for approval but for continuation, to keep the flame alive. You teach through example, not command. The gods watching fall silent, not because they are gone, but because there is nothing left to test. They have seen what they came to see. Divinity remembered, refined, and returned to the world. This is how gods are born again, not in heavens, but in hearts. And as night falls once more, you feel their gaze fade into the stars. Not distant, not superior, just eternal, the same fire that now burns in you. For the first time, you understand that their watching was never surveillance. It was hope. The gods were waiting for proof that their creation could ascend beyond them. And now, as your breath steadies, as your purpose sharpens, as your will hardens into destiny, they know. The proof has arrived. You,